We are continuing to track the fallout from last week's fierce winter storm. People all across the country found themselves stranded, upending their holiday plans. Many others wound up in the dark, losing power for long stretches. But for tens of thousands of Quebecers, that story is not over. They are still waiting to get reconnected to the grid.
We are working really hard to restore the vast majority of the people by the end of the day, Wednesday. Nobody will be forgotten. We will have no surrender and no peace until everybody is connected back.
Hydro-Quebec says it can't give a timeline for all customers because of trees and other objects, keeping crews from accessing already difficult-to-reach areas. The company says it's using about 1,200 hydro crews from across the province and 10 helicopters to clear paths and complete repair work. And thousands are still without power in and around the town of Fort Erie, Ontario. Fort Erie's mayor says about 4,300 customers are still in the dark, with no timeline for electricity to be fully restored. Fallen trees and broken telephone poles are proving to be a major challenge for repair crews. Some of them have come as far as Sudbury to help. The Niagara region declared a state of emergency on Saturday because of the winter storm conditions. And crews in BC are making progress restoring power after the winter wallop on the west coast. The latest numbers from BC Hydro say about 2,500 customers are still without electricity. That is down considerably from the height of the storm. Right now, the most affected areas are in the Lower Mainland and on Vancouver Island. For more on the power outages affecting parts of Ontario, we've reached Tiziana Baccega Rosa. She is a spokesperson for Hydro One and joins me from Mississauga, Ontario. Thank you for joining us this morning. Can you tell us, first of all, how many people are still without power this morning?
Absolutely, and thank you, Anita. We're entering day 5 of restoration with about 11,800 customers that remain without power in the hardest hit areas.
Which areas are experiencing these power outages?
So right now, it's largely concentrated in central Ontario between Bracebridge, Huntsville, Parry Sound, and we do still have about 1,000 customers out in Bancroft. What we saw in these areas was a lot of snowfall continuing over the past couple of days, and it's really hindered crews' efforts to be able to access the roads that they need to get on. So they're using really creative means such as snowmobiles and snowshoes for the last 2 days, trying to get in there and reach customers as best as they can.
What an ordeal. Tiziana, how long is Hydro One expecting before power is restored to these customers?
Well, here's the great news. We are in the final stretch. We have every available resource out there, and that includes our contractors and utility partners. Everyone's out who could lend a hand, and they've all descended into these areas bright and early this morning for another full day of restoration. So our hope is to have the bulk of these customers restored by end of day today. And, barring additional snow or any unforeseen circumstances, that's the goal and that's our hope. I will caveat that by saying that, conditions have also prevented us from getting helicopters and boats into the water, which are the means we use to reach seasonal properties mostly, but that are on islands and water access only. So we still will need to reach those customers in the coming days.
You mentioned some of the challenges facing crews right now, but what other challenges are they facing to reconnect power to people experiencing outages?
I've heard stories from, along the southwest shoreline where crews were chipping away ice off of the equipment in order to even make the repairs they needed to yesterday. So I think we've all seen these incredible images from different parts of Ontario where the circumstances were just so extreme, whether it was the snow blocking roads. We've seen pictures of vehicles, like even our own, that were stranded and just covered in feet and feet of snow, or this type of buildup on our own equipment that is taking time for them to literally chip away at. Otherwise, it's traditionally what you expect with these high winds, which is broken poles and trees down on lines. So it's a lot of that type of cleanup work that they're working on.
And Tiziana, of course, we are in December, at the end of December now, but what can people without power do to stay warm, with these below freezing temperatures outside?
That's a great question, and one that I think challenges everyone at this point. Aside from blankets and staying warm, this has really been about being able to do what is right for you and your family. Since the start of the storm, we knew this was going to be a several-day event in terms of getting everyone back on. So where possible, we've encouraged customers to make alternate arrangements, and otherwise just stay safe and ensure that if you are cooking with a barbecue, please you're doing it outside in a well-ventilated area. Same with using a generator. I think I haven't heard many of the unfortunate deaths that have happened in other parts where the storm affected people. So, we want to ensure everyone's remaining safe as we get through this last bit.
All right, Tiziana, thank you so much for joining us this morning to talk about this, and all the best moving forward.